So who is taking the session at first? Siddhant ji, aap?
Ayush will be taking the first session.
Okay. So at 4, I think Vineet ji, आप बिल्कुल start कर दीजिएगा.
I think webinar has started.
Yeah, webinar.
दुर्गादास जी मेरे स्टार्ट करेंगे.
नहीं विनीत जी आप ही करो.
ठीक है सर. Shall we start, sir?
Yes, please.
So with your permission, I thank you all to give me this opportunity to be on this dais with esteemed personalities. I look forward to all of you as friends and colleagues to take this flame of ADSC to greater heights of learning. With the ADSC, I got to meet and learn from mentors, youth, leaders, and experts, all along becoming a professional and entrepreneur. My name is Vineet Singhal, and I'm being appointed as Deputy Convener of EDSC. And I'd like to thank all my predecessors, C.A. Sandeep Agarwal ji in absentia, C.A. Durgadas Agarwal ji, the founder of EDSC, and C.A. Shashank Agarwal ji for this opportunity. And I would like support of all of you, all of the members here, to take this award-winning study circle to greater heights of learning by organizing learning experiences, learning seminars, learning webinars for success in life, be it professional or personal. We would strive to organize webinars ranging from professional topics to communications and other technology topics also, with the guidance of our Durgadas sir and Shashank ji. So, and you're also welcome to discuss any of your ideas with me or any of our dais members. My email ID and number will be shared in chat box soon. I'd like to hand over the proceedings to Durgadas Agarwal ji for further process. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Vineet.
Thank you, sir.
I am very happy that कि विनीत सिंघल जी ने एक्सेप्ट किया, लोगों ने चुना एज ए डिप्टी कन्वीनर विनीत जी को. मैं समझता हूँ इनकी गाइडेंस में, इनकी टेक्निकल नॉलेज के साथ हम आगे बढ़ेंगे. और आज जो हमने शुरुआत करने जा रहे हैं, ये 3 डेज का हमारा GST पे फोकस वाला एरिया है. 3 डेज का जो हमारा प्रोग्राम है 14, 15, 16 नवंबर, इट विल बी लुक आफ्टर बाई none other than young Ayush Agarwal and Siddhant Pathak ji. और आप मेंबर्स, आपको काफ़ी कुछ जानने को, सीखने को मिलेगा. और यंग फेस आपके सामने ही है. मैं समझता हूँ पहली बार हमारे पास, हमारे स्टडी सर्कल में आयुष और सिद्धांत आ रहे हैं. तो दोस्तों, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है. हम वेलकम करते हैं आयुष जी का, सिद्धांत जी का और शशांक का, जिन्होंने टाइम निकाला और इसको डिज़ाइन किया, इस प्रोग्राम को 3 दिन का एक कंटिन्यूस प्रोग्राम ऑन GST. और उसके बाद भी जैसे कि भाई एंड आ रहा है दिसंबर, तो थोड़ा सा CP आवर्स का भी है. लेकिन हमारा मोटिव रहेगा नॉट ओनली CP आवर्स, हम क्वालिटी डिस्कशन, क्वालिटी एजुकेशन हम प्रोवाइड कर सकें अपने मेंबर्स के बीच में. तो उसी के लिए हमारे बीच में आयुष हैं और सिद्धांत हैं आज के लिए. तो आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत आयुष एंड सिद्धांत. एंड आपकी अच्छे भविष्य के लिए शुभकामनाएं. हमारे मेंबर्स का आपको प्यार मिलेगा, आशीर्वाद मिलेगा. और बहुत दिनों बाद हो गई है, मैं जो शुरुआत करता हूँ कुछ गीता के श्लोक से करता हूँ. तो एक गीता का एक श्लोक इस समय के लिए जरा बढ़िया है कि जो भी प्रैक्टिस में है या इंडस्ट्री में है, या जो मैं कह सकता हूँ कि किसी भी फील्ड में है, जो भी नॉलेज जहाँ की जरूरत है अपडेशन के लिए, तो वहाँ पर भगवान कहते हैं कि अज्ञश्च अश्रद्धानश्च संशयात्मा विनश्यति. अध्याय 4 के 40वें श्लोक में अर्जुन को समझाते हुए कहते हैं, अज्ञश्च अश्रद्धानश्च संशयात्मा विनश्यति. यानी कि जो अज्ञानी है, जिसके पास नॉलेज नहीं है पूरी, और जिसके पास श्रद्धा नहीं है, श्रद्धा भगवान के प्रति, अपने पेरेंट्स के प्रति, अपनी एसोसिएशन के प्रति, अपनी इंस्टीट्यूशन के प्रति, और अपने आप के प्रति, अपनी नॉलेज के प्रति उसमें श्रद्धा नहीं है, अज्ञश्च अश्रद्धानश्च संशयात्मक विनश्यति, और जो जिसके डाउट्स क्लियर नहीं हुए, संशय है, संशय युक्त व्यक्ति है, ऐसे व्यक्ति का विनाश निश्चित है, वो सफल नहीं हो सकता। ना यम लोको अस्ति ना सुखम ना परो संशयात्मने, ऐसे व्यक्ति, संशय युक्त व्यक्ति का ना तो इस लोक में ही सुख है ना परलोक में ही सुख है। ये भगवान के वचन है, कोई बुरा ना माने कि विनाश हो जाएगा, लेकिन हाँ, हमें नॉलेज अपडेशन करती रहनी होगी। इसके लिए आज हमारे बीच में आयुष है और संदीप है, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत। और मैं देख रहा हूँ हमारे करीब 40 मेंबर्स ज्वाइन कर चुके हैं, आपका भी बहुत बहुत स्वागत। अब मैं चाहूंगा शशांक कुछ बोलें इसके बारे में, क्योंकि ये आपका प्रिय सब्जेक्ट है जीएसटी, और आपने ही आशीष जी को चुन के लाए हो, संदीप जी को, तो ओवर टू यू शशांक।
Thank you so much, Durga Das ji. Jai Shri Krishna to all of you. First of all, many congratulations to CA Vineet Kumar Singhal, appointed Delhi Study Circle. इनका इंट्रोडक्शन थोड़ा लेट हुआ, बट आई थिंक दिस इज द वेरी वैलिड टाइम दैट ही हैज बीन joined as a deputy convener of study circle, and really study circle always need a new faces with new energy and new people, so that the things can grow up in a very new manner, because right now many chartered accountants are becoming an entrepreneurs as well. Many chartered accountants are becoming lawyers and coming into the litigation field. So there's always a different perceptions always required at this time. So I think Vineet ji is a very appropriate person for the study circle to run in future. So congratulations again, Vineet ji. And I heartily welcome Ayush ji and Siddhant Pathak ji on this platform. This 3 days GST program, I really like to thank Ayush ji and Siddhant ji for accepting our invitation. And because GST nowadays, what is happening with the professionals nowadays, nobody wants to study so much, because every day we are involved in some type of practices, either a direct taxes, or we are actually fighting with all the compliance calendar. So at that moment, we always need what is going on in the market. And study circles has been formed with such a motive that yes, on one day or twice a month or thrice a month, we will get updated with the knowledge which is continually happening in the society. So that's why study circles and CP programs has been initiated in the very front. And this study circle has been opened in 1998, when nobody has thought upon the we will get together and one of the person becomes the speaker and he will share his ideas. I always feel amazed, like out of five of us, one person will appear and say that I have more knowledge and you don't have. But this has become the important part of knowledge today. Why? Because one person has some different set of knowledge and one person has some different set of knowledge. There is one speaker who knows only 4 sections of Companies Act, and he has a huge wealth, I can say. He says, I only study 4 sections and I understand only 4 sections. And this is only my understanding, and I have experience of only these 4 sections. And this is enough for me. So that kind of speakers also give you a very great boost. That by getting the knowledge of only 4 sections, he is able to operate his whole practice. So again, the knowledge and the expertise and earning our money is all on a very different aspects. But yes, for the younger generations, for me, for Vineet ji, for Ayush ji, Siddhant ji, we are trying very hard for the society, I believe, and for us as well, to share the knowledge, to share the experiences. But at last, I think the most important thing is sharing only, which I totally understood from my heart as well. So with these words, I am welcoming again Siddhant ji and Ayush ji. And I just like to give you a very brief introduction to all the participants about Ayush ji and Siddhant ji. Starting with the Ayush ji. Ayush ji is born in Agra, so from our native place. So it's always very welcoming to welcome Ayush Agarwal ji here. Ayush ji is a chartered accountant specializing in indirect tax, GST, custom and central excise service tax. Vast experience of indirect taxations only. and handled a very high cases in the tribunal level with the secured victory. And he has advised various MNCs and group companies on high complex GST transactions. And he is the person for the GST, customs, and foreign trade practices. Ayush have argued and won the cases for its clients at various levels, such as Commissioner Appeals and SESTED, and some of which are reported in the Law Journal as well. And he is the part of the indirect taxes advisory team as well, and is a continuous speaker on the GST and indirect tax topics. And he is one of the partner in one of the leading firms, Agarwal, Goel and Company, and heads the indirect tax profile. So with these words, welcome Ayush. And I also like to share a few information of Siddhant Pathak ji. Siddhant ji is very near to all of us. Abhi just had a word with Siddhant ji. So his office is in Sagar apartment only. So काफी CS का सपना भी होता है कि हम वहाँ जाके ऑफिस भी एक देख ले. तो सिद्धांत जी के यहाँ आप बेझिझक कभी भी ऑफिस आइए. I'll definitely come Siddhant ji someday. So Siddhant ji is a chartered accountant and qualified in November 2016. He has also completed his LLB in 2018 and he's a Delhi University alumni. So he started practicing in the indirect tax only, service tax and the GST. Again, the GST introduced in 2017. So he started the litigations in the GST. And he leads the indirect tax practices with the S. Pathak and Associates, a firm established in 1996. And he has a privilege, yes, as absolutely a privilege that he has worked with the Ashok Batra sir. Again, a very renowned and prominent faculty speaker, guru, you can say, in the indirect tax domain. So Siddhant ji has a lot, he learned a lot from Batra sir. And he is the member of the AFTP, Association of Finance and Tax Professionals. And with this, I really like to welcome both of the speakers today. We have a 3-day program in which we are covering so many GST aspects. See, in the first 3 years, 2017, 18, 19, we have started GST always from the very basics, like from the section 7 to the penalties to the composition. आज तक सप्लाई की डेफिनेशन बार बार हमें पढ़नी पड़ती है, ऑल्दो कि क्या होती है, कैसे होती है. जब भी केस लगता है तो अगेन हम सप्लाई की डेफिनेशन पढ़ते हैं. बट आई बिलीव members now want the practical exposure of how the recent advanced rulings are changing the mechanisms, how the advanced rulings are impacting the economy. जैसे आया था ना वो कि पराठे पे 18% और रोटी पे 5%, ये भी मैं चाहूंगा थोड़ा सा कुछ आप इस पल पे भी कुछ छेड़ पाए, क्योंकि ऐसी चीजें ना इतना परेशान करती हैं, बाजार में ना बड़ा तेजी से फैलती हैं. एंड आई रियली बिलीव कि आपके पास भी क्वेश्चंस आते हैं, सर इस पे क्या मतलब है, हमें क्या करना है, कैसे करना है. तो अब दूध के ऊपर है, जीएसटी है नहीं है, किस पे नहीं है. So again, there are so many questions, and how to take the advance ruling from the authority. I think this is also the important aspect for the chartered accountants कि हमें advance ruling के लिए जाना ही कैसे. That is important to ask. और कब जाएं और कब ना जाएं. That is the another part of advisory. क्या हमें जाना जरूरी था? So this is the third thing. And on the next day, we will take the how to handle the notices, summons, and how to draft the reply. And third day, the transitional credit, which is very important. I believe 30th November is the last date to take the transitional credit. But I really don't know the portal is working fine or not for the transitional credit. Is every column is appearing on the GST website or not? Because one of my client is having an issue. So that's why I'm discussing here that there is one column which is not appearing in his GST number. So what to do? Just to raise a complaint or to go at some place? So with these words, I really like to welcome Ayush ji and Siddhant ji. And before we start, I request Vineet ji, if you want to share anything so that we can start the session, please.
There is nothing as such. We have covered all the queries that can be from the members. Any member who can have any queries can put that in Q&A section of the room, and we can take up at the end of the session. That's it. Our speakers can take up the forward the proceedings.
Please, Ayush.
Thank you, Viniji. Thank you, first of all, East Delhi Study Circle for giving me this opportunity. And a special thanks to C. Shashank Agarwal ji and Durga Das Agarwal sir for believing in me and, assigning me the topic. So today's topic, when Shashank ji assigned me recent changes in GST, I was just, plugging my hairs. I don't know, because GST in itself so recent, there is nothing old about it. It keeps on changing. Each day we see a flood of changes being made in GST. So GST, as of now, it is considered as an unsettled tax only. In spite of so many changes we have seen in GST, we again say that it is yet to be settled now. So GST, as I can say, it is no more a goods and simple tax, because the objective which it was introduced, the main objective, the way it was advertised, first of all the taxes are merging into one thing, and the basic thing that was advertised was the seamless flow of input tax credit. But do we see this seamless flow of input tax credit in GST? Are we seriously able to get ITC without any hassle from the department, or without looking into numerous provisions of the law? So first of all, the amendment that I would look to discuss over here is, let me share my screen. Is my screen visible?
आयुष, इसको फुल स्क्रीन मोड करके देखो एक बार, ये बहुत छोटा दिख रहा है.
अच्छा, just ये इसको जूम करके देख लें तो, क्योंकि यहाँ पे
Ayush, I guess try to flip the orientation if that is possible.
is it okay now?
Yeah, now it is
Now
okay.
it's perfect. Now it's perfect.
Okay.
I think you are using a tab. I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So yes. So what I was saying about GST, yes, the seamless flow of input tax credit. The first provision that I would like to discuss is Section 38. Section 38, as we say, before discussing it, I would like to discuss कि GST में Section 38 आने से पहले क्या provisions थे जब GST introduce हुआ था. So there was a concept called matching and mismatching concept. The supplier was required to file GSTR1. The output supply furnished by the supplier in GSTR1 was auto-populated in GSTR2A of the recipient. So by looking at GSTR2A, I knew कि which supplier, कौन से supplier ने मेरा invoice upload किया है, कौन से supplier ने मेरा invoice upload नहीं किया. Then in Section 38, it was envisaged कि I will verify, modify, delete or add some details in it, and those details that I have verified, modified, added or deleted will be sent as a communication to my supplier, where he can accept or reject that information. So on the basis of that, Section 42 and Section 43 said that there will be a matching of ITC with the output supply furnished by your supplier. So GSTR1 will be matched with GSTR2, and wherever there was any discrepancy, that discrepancy will be notified to both the supplier as well as the recipient. But the ITC which has been taken in excess by the recipient, what is appearing GSTR2A will be added to his output tax liability. Let me tell you, my friends, these provisions though were there in GST, but the mechanism that was being provided there was never implemented. There was never any GSTR2A, there was never any GSTR3, and we always file GSTR3B instead of GSTR3. Now, before these provisions even could get implemented, the government completely revamped this provision, revamped the scenario, omitted Section 42, 43, and Section 43A, revamped Section 38. Now, what does this new section 38 say to all of us? This new section 38 deals with GSTR 2A and 2B. First of all, the first provision of this reads is that every detail that will be furnished by suppliers by the registered person in section 37(1), section 37 subsection 1, that is outward supply, it will be and statement will get auto generated, and the input tax credit will be made available to the recipients on the basis of such a statement. This is so simple, looks like. Supplier GSTR 1 भरेगा, recipient को ITC मिल जाएगा GSTR 2A के basis पर. But the catch is in subsection 2. The auto-generated statement, it has 6 restrictions. So I would like to discuss you with first of all, I would like to discuss the 6 restrictions with you. Just a second. So what are these six restrictions that are being prescribed under section 38 subsection 2? First condition is that GSTR 1 is being furnished by such registered person who has taken the registration within the time limit as may be prescribed. Kindly note the words as may be prescribed. Now, what does this say? मैंने आज रजिस्ट्रेशन लिया, मैं आज अपने GSTR 1 भरता हूँ, क्या मैं किसी सामने वाले को ITC नहीं दे पाऊंगा? या फिर मैंने किसी न्यूली रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन से कुछ टैक्सेबल सप्लाईज ली, इनपुट लिए, गुड्स लिए, सर्विसेज ली, क्या मैं उनका ITC नहीं ले पाऊंगा? I think exactly this is what provision is saying. But the main motive behind the introduction is this provision is some of the firms take registration just for the sake of passing ITC. वो registration लेते हैं, बहुत सारा ITC को accumulate करके आगे pass on करते हैं. They never pay their tax liability with cash, and within 6 to 7 months they cancel their registration. So, in order to curb these practices of fake invoicing and transferring input tax credit without actually movement of goods or without actually the recipient receiving goods and services, this provision has been introduced whereby the government will identify such registered persons who are misusing the concept of ITC in GST, and they will notify such registered persons as if they furnish their GSTR 1 within such period of taking registration, then ITC to the recipient will not be available. So this is first restriction. Second restriction is in relation to payment of tax. So what is this restriction? If my supplier has not paid tax for a period as may be prescribed, again as may be prescribed, for a period as may be prescribed, then I may not get the credit of the same. Again, how? My supplier has total output tax liability of say 10 lakh rupees. He declares 6 lakh rupees in GSTR 1, furnishes GSTR 1, files GSTR 1, files GSTR 3 with 6 lakh rupees only. The question is, he has not furnished invoices related to 4 lakh. It can relate to me or it can relate to someone else also. These GSTR 2A, these invoices will not appear my GSTR 2A. That is okay. Now to appear the invoices, the recipient in whose GSTR 2A these invoices are not appearing will not get the credit. That is something which looks to be fine. But if we read this provision deeply, if we read this says as furnished by the registered person who has made the default in payment of tax for a period as may be prescribed. So does it say that GSTR 1 which has been furnished for rupees 6 lakhs, say all these 6 lakh rupees credit will also be denied because this person has defaulted in payment of tax. Now, for a period and has defaulted in payment of tax, it is nowhere written that he has defaulted, fully defaulted or proportionately the ITC will be denied. Nothing is overwritten over here. So we have to check whether this payment of tax by a registered person, whether full ITC to all the recipients will be denied, or whether only the invoices which has not been furnished by the GST by that person will be denied. We will read the Bare Act also to get a better understanding of this. I am just explaining you now with without the help of a Where Act. The third is where liability declared in GSTR1 is more than liability paid through GSTR3B. Again, same problem. Whose credit will be denied? I have total output tax liability of rupees 10 lakh. I declare rupees 10 lakh in GSTR1, but I pay only rupees 6 lakh through GSTR3B. 4 lakh rupees remains unpaid. Now, 4 lakh rupees belongs to which supplier? There can be many. Which recipient, sorry. There can be many recipients to whom I have passed on the credit. Whose credit does the government actually wish to deny? Or is it all the suppliers is it all the recipients that the government is saying, if you transact with a defaulting supplier, whether he defaults in your transaction or not, he defaults in any transaction, you will not get the credit. Is it so? I think because there is no provision, again, the words as may be prescribed, certain limit has to be prescribed कि अगर 10 लाख की output liability declare करी है, 6 लाख मैंने पे किया है, तो एक monetary limit government specify करेगी, suppose 2 लाख, 3 लाख, अगर इससे ऊपर का डिफरेंस हुआ 50 लाख, मतलब कितनी भी हो सकती है वो, अगर इससे ऊपर का डिफरेंस हुआ तो फिर सामने वाले को ITC नहीं मिलेगा. तो again, as may be prescribed words has been used for the monetary limit over here. Now, the fourth one is where GSTR, where ITC in GSTR 3B is greater than ITC appearing GSTR 2B. Again, the monetary limit, about the monetary limit, there is a monetary limit that will be prescribed as may be prescribed. What does it say? 1 crore rupees is appearing in my GSTR 2B. I have total output tax liability of rupees 2 crores. I take the credit of 1.5 crores, pay 50 lakh by cash, and files my return. As per department, as per government, I have taken rupees 50 lakh extra credit. But 1 crore rupees I have taken exactly what was appearing in my GSTR 2B. The question again over here arises, what sort of recipients will be denied this credit? How does the government will make the bifurcation? Let me tell you something, the GSTR 2B that comes, already comes with eligible ITC, ineligible ITC, restricted ITC, and everything. It has these bifurcations in it. So you have to do nothing. You just have to take the credit of eligible ITC in your GSTR 3B. But the question is how the government is going to determine this eligible ITC. Are they going to proportionate my ITC to the amount that has been paid by my supplier, or they are going to altogether deny me the credit? What about the amount that has already been paid by the supplier? Is it not injustice, or is it not unjust enrichment at the hands of the government? Now, again, the fifth condition is where payment has not been made in accordance with section 49, subsection 12. What does this section say? Section 49, subsection 12 says that certain classes of registered persons will be prescribed for whom certain amount has to be compulsorily paid through cash, e-cash ledger. So there are certain classes. Rule 86B has been prescribed by government. This rule, let me tell you, this rule came earlier before its enabling provision. This has been challenged before various high courts that this rule does not have any enabling provision. But now from 1st Jan 2022, this rule has enabling provision in terms of section 49(12). Now, what does it say? Section 49(12) says that certain class of registered persons will be prescribed where output tax liability has some percentage of output tax liability has to be paid by e-cash ledger only. So it is 1%. The percentage that has been prescribed is 1%. 99% can be paid by e-credit ledger, but 1% has to be paid by e-cash ledger. So the person who defaults in this payment method, section 49(12), again the credit of its recipients will be denied. And the last condition is any other condition as may be prescribed. So there are such other conditions which the government may again prescribe. In all the 6 conditions, in all the 6 restrictions, government has used the word as may be prescribed. As may be prescribed has not been prescribed yet. Now, neither by way of notification nor by any rule. So we are yet to see the full force of this section, but we have started, department has started issuing notices for these. In fact, for the financial year 21-22, in fact, there has been a mismatch in your ITC. Now, okay, we can say that GSTR 2B has been introduced from 1st Jan 2022, sorry. But how do we reply to these notices where GSTR 2A versus 3B has been, the difference between GSTR 2A and 3B has been highlighted by the government. We will deal with it a little later in this webinar only. So first, I have been discussing section 38. There are 6 restrictions furnished by such registered persons taking registration in such a period as may be prescribed, defaulting in payment of tax for a period as may be prescribed, monetary limit where GSTR 1 is more than, where liability declared in GSTR 1 is more than GSTR 3B, the monetary limit of it will be prescribed. Again, the ITC taken through GSTR 3B is more than what has been prescribed in GSTR 2B, or what is eligible or what is available in GSTR 2B. Again, the monetary limit of it will be prescribed. The person who have defaulted in payment method of section 49 subsection 12, that is, he has not paid the tax through 1% by using e-cash ledger. And another one is as other conditions as may be prescribed. एक बार इसका बेयर एक्ट भी पढ़ लेते हैं to understand, to understand completely कि इसमें exactly क्या हो क्या रहा है. The first is, so if we read the subsection 2, the auto-generated statement under subsection 1 shall consist of details of inward supplies in respect of which credit of input tax may be available to the recipient. Such a sweet provision. एकदम लड्डू मक्खन की तरह की गवर्नमेंट कुछ कह ही नहीं रही है. केवल आपको वही केवल आपके पास वही इंफॉर्मेशन होगी GSTR 2 में जो कि आपको एज अ क्रेडिट अवेलेबल है. बट अगेन, subsection clause B of subsection 2, it prescribes those 6 conditions that I just discussed now. Details of supplies in respect of which credit cannot be availed, whether wholly or partly. Whether wholly or partly word has been used. Now, I discussed in all the 6 provisions, there are conditions. There are problems whether credit will be denied in full or whether it will be proportionately denied. So the word wholly or partly is written over here. Details of supplies in respect of which such credit cannot be availed, whether wholly or partly, by the recipient on account of the details of the said supplies, being furnished under subsection 1 of section 37, first, by any registered person within such period of taking registration as may be prescribed. As I said, to curb the fake invoicing or to, the unnecessary, the unintended inflow of input tax credit, where this input tax credit is in reality not available to the recipient. To curb those practices, this provision has been prescribed. This restriction has been introduced. Second, by any registered person who has defaulted in payment of tax and where such default has continued for such period as may be prescribed. Defaulted in payment of tax for such a period as may be prescribed. Third is, by any registered person, the output tax payable by whom, in accordance with the statement of outward supplies furnished by him under the said subsection during such period as may be prescribed, exceeds the output tax paid by him during the said period by such limit as may be prescribed. GSTR 1 liability is greater than GSTR 3B by such monetary limit as may be prescribed. Fourth, by any registered person who during such period as may be prescribed, has availed credit of input tax of an amount that exceeds the credit that can be availed by him in accordance with clause A by such limit as may be prescribed. Now, two times the word prescribed has been used in this subclause 4, clause B, subsection 2, section 38. By any registered person, first of all, during the period, it can be a prolonged period of 6 months, 8 months, or even 2 months, 3 months. अगर वो लगातार इस पीरियड से वो गलती करता आ रहा है, केवल एक पीरियड में उसने गलती करी तो हो सकता है नेक्स्ट में रेक्टिफाई कर ले, इसीलिए उसको एक क्या कहते हैं मार्जिन दिया है, एक रेंज दी है कि जो भी पीरियड के लिए तुम अगर प्रोलॉन्ग उस पीरियड से भी ज्यादा वो गलती कर रहे हो, आपका जीएसटी या 3B में जो आईटीसी यू आर टेकिंग, यू आर क्लेमिंग is more than what is appearing in your GSTR 2B. Again, a limit has to be prescribed for that कि आप इतने रुपए से ज्यादा की गलती करेंगे, से 10 लाख रुपए से ज्यादा की गलती करेंगे, आपके GSTR 2 में आईटीसी आ रहा है 1 करोड़ रुपए, आपने GSTR 3B में आईटीसी ले लिया 1 करोड़ 20 लाख रुपए, तो आपने 10 लाख रुपए से ज्यादा की गलती कर दी। अब पूरे 20 लाख रुपए डिनाई होंगे या 10 लाख रुपए डिनाई होंगे, वो तो सामने वाले के डिनाई होंगे, वैसे भी कैसे डिनाई होंगे, होली और पार्टली, एंड हाउ the government will make its calculation, because again I am saying this will be done by government because an auto drafted statement will be generated. Taxpayer, that is the recipient, has nothing to do with this auto drafted auto generated statement. This will be generated from the portal only on the basis of the artificial intelligence of the government. Taxpayer, that is the recipient, only has to check whether the the column appearing after the ITC, whether it is written eligible, ineligible, blocked, whether if it is written eligible, you have to take the ITC. As simple as that. Now coming to the fifth provision, by any registered person who has defaulted in discharging in tax liability in accordance with the provisions of subsection 12 of section 49, subject to such conditions and restrictions as may be prescribed. Again, certain conditions and restrictions will be prescribed. And sixth one is by such other class of person as may be prescribed. So there are total 6 restrictions that will be there in GSTR 2B appearing on the portal of all the taxpayers. Taxpayers have to be very, very careful by claiming the credit, because now the law has been clearly mandated. It has been clearly mandated in section 16 that your ITC cannot go beyond and this auto drafted statement. Earlier, we used to say that there was no such provision in the law, because the only condition which the government used to say, that the department used to say you have violated, is section 16 subsection 2 clause C, that is the tax has not been paid to the government. We say we had various defenses for that clause, but now in section 16 subsection 2, 2 new conditions have been added. The first one is made applicable from 1st January 2022, but the second one is made applicable from 1st October 2022. What does this say? The details of the invoice or debit note referred to in clause A of section 16 subsection 2 has been furnished by the supplier in the statement of outward supplies, and such details have been communicated to the recipient of such invoice or debit note in the manner specified in section 37. Your supplier has furnished the details of your invoice as per section 37 in its outward supply. First. Second, that invoice should have been communicated to you in your GSTR 2A and GSTR 2B. The second condition, the second clause that has been added in section 16 subsection 2 is clause BA. The details of input tax credit in respect of the said supply communicated to the registered person under section 38 has not been restricted. Those 6 conditions as just we discussed. The
that ITC which has been communicated to you, that ITC, the invoice of being has been furnished by the supplier in its outward supply, that ITC that is appearing in your GSTR 2A on the basis of the information furnished by the supplier, again, it should not be restricted under section 38, subsection 2, clause B. Those 6 conditions should not apply, and it should appear as eligible in your GSTR 2B. Then only you are able to take the credit of such invoices or such purchases, such inward supplies that you have made with your supply. I think this is clear to all of you. You can write anything in chat box so that I can, read it if there is any questions or anything. Right. Now moving forward, certain changes have been made in Rule 60. As I was saying, two-way communication process have been completely vanished. It has been, you cannot say abolished because it was never introduced in first place, but the process that was envisaged, the concept has been completely done away with. Certain section 6, rule 69, 60, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, and rule 79, they all have been omitted. All these rules dealt with this matching and mismatching concept again. Now, certain points to be discussed in Rule 60. This again talks about GSTR 2A and GSTR 2B and what all the information will be available in that GSTR 2A or GSTR 2B. So the first one is simple. The details which has been furnished by GST in the form GSTR 1 shall be made electronically in part A of GSTR 2A. Okay. The second one is the information that has been furnished by the non-resident taxable person in form GSTR 5 shall again be made available in part A of form GSTR 2A. The details of invoice furnished by the input service distributor under section 20. The ITC that is being distributed by input service distributor in form GSTR 6 under Rule 65 shall be made available to the recipient of credit in part B. The tax that has been deducted in section 30, that has been deducted by the deductor under subsection 3 of section 39 in form GSTR 7 shall be made available in part C of GSTR 2A, and the tax that has been collected by the e-commerce operator shall be made available again in part C of GSTR 2A. The last is the details of the integrated tax that has been paid on the import of goods from special economic zone to the DTA. That will also be appearing in part D of GSTR 2A. So these are certain provisions that that are being slightly modified or slightly something added, something deleted. So I discussed the same again. Now this talks about GSTR 2B, that what all will be there. So when the supplier will furnish information in GSTR 1 from past date after the due date of furnishing the information till the date of furnishing this month's return, GSTR 2B will be available and everything. So this is the very simple, there is nothing much to discuss in it. Considering the paucity of time, I like to move forward. The another important change that I'll say, section 41 again has been completely substituted by a new provision. Earlier, because there was a matching concept, section 41 said that detail you can, on the basis of the self-assessed tax, you can take the credit and you can pay the output tax liability. The credit will be the credit will be credited to your electronic credit ledger on the provisionally. So the word provisionally was used over there because the finalization was made only after 42, 43, 43A matching and mismatching. So whatever the credit we were taking in our return, that was the provisional credit as per section 41. But since two-way process and this matching and mismatching concept has been done away with, the section 41 is again substituted with the new provision. The
catch is only in subsection 2, so I'll discuss that in detail. I don't know what is the purpose of, including this provision over here when you have already section 16.2 dealing with the ITC, placing restrictions of ITC and everything. And when you were not happy with section 16, you introduced section 38, those 6 restrictions that we just discussed. One more restriction on ITC in section 41, subsection 2. The credit of input tax availed by a registered person under subsection 1, in respect of such supplies of goods or services or both, that tax payable whereon has not been paid by the supplier shall be reversed along with the applicable interest by the said person in such manner as may be prescribed. Again, as may be prescribed, and it has to be prescribed. But again, if I have taken the credit in my return and the tax of the same has not been paid, by the supplier, I have to reverse it and I have to pay the interest on it. So this provision, specifically has been included just, to levy interest, or I can say, does it deny the credit of the entire supply chain? Suppose I am a defaulting supplier. I supplied certain goods to Shashankji. Shashankji, on the basis of my invoices, took the credit. I furnished GSTR 1. I never paid tax through GSTR 3B. Shashankji forwarded it to, Shashankji sold those goods to, say, Vineetji. Vineetji then sold it to Siddhantji. Only there is one defaulting supplier in this chain, that is me. Now that ITC, I have not paid the tax to the government. But Shashankji has taken the input tax credit of my invoice. Shashankji has taken the credit of my invoice. So his credit will be denied because I have not paid tax to the government. When his credit will be denied, again the government will say that the supplies on which Vineetji has taken the credit, the tax on it has not been paid to the government. And again, the last supplier, suppose Siddhantji in our chain, the department will again say to them that Vineetji has not paid the tax to the government, or Vineetji has defaulted because he has taken wrong ITC, therefore the tax has not been paid to the government, your ITC will be denied. Again, this is a very dangerous provision and has to be looked into carefully as to how the department interprets, how the professionals interpret it, and how the businessman would like to interpret it. Another important concept that is coming out of it is, earlier when there was matching and mismatching concept, suppose I take extra credit that is eligible to me. Suppose my supplier has defaulted in return. I take 1 lakh rupees extra credit because I have received the invoice, I have received the goods and everything. After 2 months, I have to reverse that credit. Suppose I reverse that credit and pay the interest of 2 months because I have taken extra credit, which was as per law say was not available to me. But in the 3rd month or the 4th month, my supplier wakes up. He thought, yes, I have not paid the tax. I have not furnished this return. I have not furnished this invoice. Say after 4 months, he furnishes my invoice. He furnishes the return. He pays the tax. Now the ITC is available to me, right? Now, when this ITC is available to me, there was a specific provision under sections 42 as well as section 43 and as well as section 7, rule 77 dealt with it. The interest that I paid for 2 months for, reversing my credit will get credited back to my e-cash ledger in the head interest only. So in short, I was entitled to get the refund of that interest. But over here, if we read this section, it just says that you have to pay the tax along with applicable interest. Again, the government is gaining in from both the ends. If I take extra credit, I will reverse it along with the interest. and my supplier pays it after 3-4 months along with interest, my interest component is gone, but I will get the ITC. There is no time limit on reavailing the ITC. We can read the provision provided where that the said supplier makes payment of the tax payable in respect of the aforesaid supplies. The said registered person may reavail the amount of credit reversed by him in such manner as may be prescribed. Now again, the manner has to be prescribed, whether they will prescribe interest refund in that rules or notification or not clear. But prima facie, from the first look of it, it appears that the supplier as well as the recipient will pay tax to the government because only the supplier has defaulted in furnishing its return. Now, moving forward, this was one of the major, major changes that was being introduced from 1st October 2022. Moving forward, there are certain restrictions that has been placed for furnishing returns under GST. First of all, I would like to deal with Rule 59, Sub-Rule 6. Notwithstanding anything contained in this rule, a registered person shall not be allowed to furnish the details of inward supplies of goods or services or both under Section 37 in Form GSTR1 if he has not furnished the return in Form GSTR3 for the preceding month. Similarly, second clause B of this rule says that where a registered person are required to furnish return for every quarter under the provision to subsection 1 of Section 39 shall not be allowed to furnish the details of outward supplies of goods or services of both under Section 37 in Form GSTR1 or using the invoice furnishing facility IFF if he has not furnished the return in Form GSTR3B for the preceding tax period. No margin for error at all. I furnished incorrect particulars in GSTR1. My certain invoice was of rupees 1 lakh taxable value. My accountant in haste or something entered rupees 10 lakhs. Furnished. Return filed. Now, I do not have the cash. I do not have the cash to file my GSTR 3B to pay this rupees 9 lakh to the government. Extra 9 lakh. I must use the word extra and incorrect. That I am not liable to pay. Section 37 allows me to rectify my mistake under, till the time period 30th November. This we will discuss also. Section 37 allows me to, amend my returns, rectify my errors till certain time period. Section 39 also allows me to rectify certain errors, but those errors can be rectified in the next month return only. Standing at this month, I, by mistake, entered certain invoice incorrectly, due to which GSTR1 liability has shoot up, and I do not have this much of cash to pay my output liability. I am not in a position to file GSTR3B. What should I do? Should I wait for next month? When I go to next month, I file GSTR1 and rectify my mistake. It automatically gives me a pop-up that your GSTR3B has not been filed for the previous month. Kindly file it first, and then only you will be able to file this return. So this again has little room for making mistakes in furnishing, in furnishing or in filing the returns, in furnishing the particulars of the returns. You have to be very, very extra careful in furnishing all these particulars in this return, so that such an error cannot lead you to pay this much of extra tax to the government. Again, same provisions contained in Section 37(4) and Section 39(10). So section 39(4), section 37(4), it says a registered person shall not be allowed to furnish the details of outward supplies under subsection 1 for a tax period if the details of outward supply for any of the previous tax period has not been furnished by him. Simple. आज मैं नवंबर के मंथ में अगर अपनी GST 1 फाइल करना चाहता हूँ तो डेट निकल गई, सपोज मैंने अक्टूबर की अगर फाइल नहीं करी है तो मैं नवंबर की भी GST 1 फाइल नहीं कर पाऊंगा. Provided that the government may, on the recommendation of the council, by notification subject to such conditions and restrictions as may be specified therein, allow a registered person or a class of registered person to furnish the details of outward supplies under subsection 1, even if he has not furnished the details of outward supply for one or more of the previous tax period. So this is a lenient provision where the government will, notify certain person or a class of person where the restriction of section 37(4) will not be applicable on them. If they have filed GS 37(4) or not, they will be able to, if they have filed return or not, they will be able to file return for the next year, next tax period. Similarly, section 39(10) says that if I have not furnished return for any previous tax period, then I will not be able to furnish my return for the next tax period. So 39(10) in this we file in section 39 we file GSTR 3B, and in section 37(4), as per section 37, sorry, we file GSTR 1. The provisions has been prescribed, has been included in section 37 and 39, which is only about GSTR 1. तो अगर मैंने एक पिछले पीरियड की GSTR 1 नहीं भरी तो मैं नेक्स्ट पीरियड की GSTR 1 नहीं भर पाऊंगा. Similarly 3B. But section 59 talks about 1 and 3B, and no such provision has been included in this कि government will notify certain class of registered persons कि जहाँ पे आपने अगर पिछले पीरियड का 1 नहीं भरा तो भी आप आगे का 3B भर सकते हैं. इधर आपने अगर 1 भर दिया तो आपको 3B भरना ही भरना है, तभी then only you will be able to furnish the return in GST, you will be able to furnish from GSTR 1 for that next period. Just a second. Do we have any queries or any questions? I hope everything is clear till now.
Yes, Ayush.
Okay.
Definitely. Please carry on.
Okay, thank you. Another amendment that I would like to discuss now is notification number 19/2022 central tax dated 28th September 2022. These are certain amendments that have been made in the rules. So this is a central tax amendment rules. The first amendment, I have only picked up few important amendments in it. I haven't picked up the entire notification because then it would consume a lot of time, and that was not really that important to discuss. So the rule 21, the first amendment is in rule 21, which talks about the registration which has to be cancelled for certain cases. So two new clauses, clause H and clause I, have been introduced in this rule 21. This reads as: being a registered person required to file return under subsection 1 of section 39 for each month or part thereof has not furnished return for a continuous period of 6 months. Supplier A is required to furnish GSTR 1 monthly. He does not furnish GSTR 1 for the month of October. He will not be able to furnish GSTR 1 for the month of November. He will not be able to furnish GSTR 1 for the month of December and for the subsequent months. Now, as soon as this default goes on for a continuous period of 6 months, October, November, December, January, February, March, in April, the department can cancel your registration. If you default in filing the return for a continuous period in 6 months, this is about subsection 1 of section 39. So this talks about GSTR 3B. As I said, कि GSTR 1 तो भरा, GSTR 3B नहीं भरा, क्योंकि GSTR 1 में लायबिलिटी ज्यादा डिक्लेयर कर दिया. Now GSTR 3B भरा, एक महीने का नहीं भरा, 3 महीने का नहीं भरा, 4 महीने हो गए, 5 महीने हो गए, 6 महीने हो गए, your department will automatically cancel your registration.
and nothing can be done, then आपको revocation की application डालनी पड़ेगी, सारी returns भरनी पड़ेंगी, tax interest penalty भी pay करनी पड़ेगी, सब कुछ, then you have to follow all this process. The second is about the return being furnished for every quarter under subsection, under proviso to subsection 1 of section 39. It reads, being a registered person required to file return under proviso to subsection 1 of section 39 for each quarter of part thereof has not furnished returns for a continuous period of 2 tax periods. Lucky 2 quarters, again 6 months. The person who are required to furnish the returns quarterly, if they have not furnished it for continuous period of 2 tax periods, उनका भी registration cancel हो जाएगा अगले tax period में. Suppliers who are required to furnish the return monthly, but they have not furnished it, उनका भी registration cancel हो जाएगा 6 महीने बाद. Next and important amendment is in Rule 37. Reversal of input tax credit in case of non-payment of consideration. Section 16, subsection 4, 180 days condition, 180 days has been prescribed. So suppose if you not pay tax, if you not pay the value of goods or the services as well as the tax to your supplier, and you take the ITC in your return, this non-payment of amount of the invoice amount goes on like this. Default is for a period of more than 180 days. You have to reverse the ITC that you have taken in your return along with interest. Along with interest that is payable under section 50. The important point that is to be discussed in this amendment is about this provision has been substituted. So before there was a old provision talking somewhat similar things about section 16.4 only, but what it said, the word proportionate was used over there. So अगर मेरे को सप्लायर को 1 लाख रुपए देने हैं, मैंने उसको 60,000 रुपए दे दिए प्लस जीएसटी दे दिया 60,000 रुपए, तो मेरे को 40,000 का शायद आईटीसी रिवर्स करना होता था. बट नए सेक्शन 37 में द वर्ड proportionate has been deleted from everywhere. The word proportionate or any synonym of proportionate has not been used. तो अगर 1 लाख रुपए प्लस जीएसटी देना है और अगर मैंने 60,000 रुपए प्लस जीएसटी उसको पे कर दिया, 40,000 मैंने अभी पे नहीं किया, तो मेरे को पूरे 1 लाख रुपए पे अपना जीएसटी का रिवर्सल करना पड़ेगा. This is what new rule 37 about non-payment of consideration says. This has to be read with section 16.4. Again, जब आप उसका पेमेंट कर दोगे तो आप उसका क्रेडिट ले सकते हो, और यहाँ पे लिखा है सब रूल 4 में, the time limit is specified in subsection 4, section 16 shall not apply to a claim for re-availing of any credit in accordance with the provision of the act. Now, coming to another important concept, there was one circular that was being issued to clarify whether this tax will be applicable on liquidated damages and everything or not. So, first of all, let us discuss the concept behind this circular, and then we will be able to finish the circular within 2 minutes. The concept is tax is levied on a supply. Supply is an activity. For activity, there should also, supply is an activity. There has to be something positive that has to be done by one person for another person. There has to be one contract by which it has been specified. Contract can be implied or contract can be expressed, but there has to be one contract in which it has to be specified that something is that one person is going to do something for the another person. That is what supply is, and this activity is reciprocated by way of consideration. Consideration can flow in any form. It can be in kind, it can be in cash, it can be in cash or kind, it can be barter, anything. Barter is in kind only. So now when we talk about liquidated damages or any compensation or anything, what does this liquidated damages denote? Every contract has its clause. Suppose I have to construct one building for I undertake to complete it in a period of 1 year. Mr. B has to inaugurate his office compulsorily, say from 1st January 2023. Somehow I breach in my contract. I take 2 months extra for the completion of building, and because of this, Mr. B is not able to inaugurate the office, and he is not able to carry on its work. Certain contracts prescribe the damages for these type of breaches, or Mr. B would have, if have taken certain deposit from me, he would have forfeited that, or Mr. B would have not paid me the amount that I have incurred the bills for the next 2 months. He would have paid me less what he was required to pay. Does that make, does those amount which is forfeited by Mr. B or paid less or anything becomes their income? Do Mr. B is liable to pay GST on such liquidated damages? Again, the circular clarified that the contract was, I am in the form of example, I'm explaining, the contract was for the construction of building. The contract was not for the breach in the construction of building. There is no positive act. There is no activity being done by the supplier me for the recipient for whom I am constructing the building. He never envisaged, he never wanted that I should delay in the construction of his building. So when there was no contract, there cannot be any activity and there cannot be any supply reciprocate. There cannot be any consideration reciprocating it. Hence, thus tax on such liquidated damages is not required to be paid. Although this was clarified by various high courts as well, by various tribunals as well, but again the department was issuing the show cause notices under the clause that I have agreed to tolerate an act, I have agreed to abstain from an act, or I have agreed to do any act. So if I am tolerating, if I am forfeiting that earnest deposit, then I have tolerated that breach of 2 months, and therefore this is a deemed supply and I have to pay tax on it. No, it is not so. For any supply, there has to be a contract first. There was never any implied contract. There was not any express contract between the supplier and the recipient that you have to breach in the terms of the main contract. Once there was not any contract, any act performed by me does not entail that I have done it for certain other promise. So whatever I have done is not at all an activity and not at all a supply in GST, and no tax will be levied on the same. The same has been prescribed for liquidated damages, compensation for cancellation of whole blocks. Again, check dishonor, penalty imposed for violation of laws. Forfeiture of salary or payment notice pay. Although we had this GNCTD Kerala High Court judgment, Madras or Kerala High Court judgment, I exactly don't remember, that GST is not payable on this notice pay. But everywhere the department was following different practices. Now that it has been clarified that this forfeiture of salary or the recovery of bond amount is to compensate for the damages, and the employer has not
tolerated any act of its employee, therefore no GST will be payable on it. Coming to late payment surcharge or fees. This late payment surcharge or fees, as has been rightly explained in this circular, this late payment is always recovered when the supplier delays in the payment of the main invoice. Suppose he was required to pay me certain amount within X period, but he pays me within X plus 5 days. I say, pay me the interest for rupees 5 days as well, because you have delayed it for 5 days. Then as per section 15 also, this has to be included in the value of the supply, and this is not liquidated damages. Maybe you can name it penalty, but this has to be included in the value of the supply and will be taxable at the same rate as the main supply was taxable. So if your main supply was exempt in this case, then only this amount will be exempt. But if your main supply was taxable, say suppose at the rate of 12%, then you have to pay the 12% tax on this interest component as well. Circulars or clarifications without ambiguity. It is still a dream. Cancellation charges. Cancellation charges, everything was fine with this circular, explained very beautifully, subscribed to the views of the professionals, correct understanding of law. But in the end, it clarified that the cancellation charges that the hotels, suppose I book a hotel, I have to go from here to Mumbai. I book a train ticket. I pay 700 rupees extra so that if something happens and I cancel my ticket at the last moment also, the entire amount will be refunded to me. No cancellation charges will be applicable. You charge GST on those 700 rupees, that is perfectly fine, because it is again a supply. You agreed in a contract with me that you will tolerate my act of this cancellation at any point of time if I wish so. So this 700 rupees that you collected extra from me at the time of booking, it's a supply. Tax has to be levied on it. Circular also is of the same view. Tax should be levied on it. But the cancellation charges, suppose now I book the ticket, I book the hotel and everything. At the last moment, I decide not to go. Suppose I didn't pay 700 rupees extra. Now you're deducting, suppose, say 40% of my airfare, and you are reimbursing only 60% to me. And that hotel industry, that hotel person is also deducting, say, 50% of total amount that I paid as advance and only refunding me 50%. Are these payments or are these amounts not in the nature of liquidated damages again? Because there was no contract between me and you that I will cancel it at the last moment. You were looking forward to host me. But due to some reasons, I cancelled my hotel, I cancelled my plan. The circular in this case specified that the services starts from the date you book the ticket, and it ends after you leave the hotel. Therefore, in these sorts of cancellation for air ticket booking, railway ticket booking, hotel booking, the cancellation charges that are being charged by these suppliers, they will be subject to the GST at the same rate as that of the main supplier. Now, I completely do not agree with this view. According to me, these should also be the liquidated damages. And the concept that has been so beautifully explained by the circular in the beginning should be applied over here also, and these should not be levied to tax. There are certain changes in time limit. I'll quickly discuss it. So section 16(4), the time limit for taking the credit was earlier the due date of furnishing the return for the month of September of the next financial year, or the due date of furnishing the annual return, whichever is earlier. Now, this has slightly been changed. The due date of furnishing of return was 20th September, so 20th October. Now the specified date, that is 30th November of the next financial year has been prescribed. So सेक्शन 16(4) में आप क्रेडिट तब तक नेक्स्ट ईयर के 30th नवंबर तक या ड्यू डेट ऑफ फर्निशिंग ऑफ एनुअल रिटर्न विच एवर इज अर्लियर तक आप क्रेडिट ले सकते हैं। ये 30th नवंबर लोग काफी कंफ्यूज कर लेते हैं कि हम नवंबर की रिटर्न भरेंगे तो हम 20th दिसंबर तक इसका क्रेडिट ले सकते हैं। नो, इट इज नॉट सो। इन फैक्ट द टाइम हैज ओनली बीन इंक्रीज्ड बाय 1 मंथ, बिकॉज आपको 30th नवंबर तक क्रेडिट लेना है, लेकिन आप क्रेडिट लेंगे जीएसटीआर 3B में, जो कि आप भर देंगे 20th नवंबर को। फॉर द मंथ ऑफ अक्टूबर की रिटर्न, अक्टूबर रिटर्न यू विल फाइल इट इन 20th नवंबर। सो बेसिकली ओनली 30 days हैज बीन इंक्रीज्ड। अगर आप रिटर्न लेट भर रहे हैं, आप 30th नवंबर तक रिटर्न लेट भर रहे हैं, देन इट इज फाइन, यू कैन टेक द क्रेडिट। बट इट इज नॉट सो कि आप नवंबर के रिटर्न जब आप दिसंबर में भरेंगे बाय द ड्यू डेट दैट इज 20th December, then you can take the credit. No, I have seen many people interpreting this provision like this. Again, issuing of credit note, time limit has been increased from the September or furnishing of annual return to 30th November. For the first provision to section 37(3) rectification in GSTR 1, provision to section 39(9) amendment in GSTR 3B, all these time limits have been increased. Again, one time limit has not been increased, that is reversal of ITC in terms of section 17 subsection 2 read with rule 42 and 43. Exempt supply, taxable supply, non business supply, business supply, मैंने सारा ITC ले लिया, मेरे को रिवर्स करना है 40 to 43. I will not go into the deep understanding into explaining this 42 and 43. बट एवरीवन नोस कि 42 और 43 में मेरे को एग्जेम्प्ट टू टोटल सप्लाई का रिवर्सल करना होता था। नाउ सप्लाई का रिवर्सल करना होता है, इसकी टाइम लिमिट अगर हम 42 43 में जाके पढ़े हैं तो हमको हर मंथ तो रिवर्सल करना ही है, बट एट द एंड ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल ईयर टिल द डेट ऑफ फर्निशिंग ऑफ द रिटर्न फॉर द मंथ ऑफ सितंबर मेरे को एक फाइनल कैलकुलेशन करनी थी पिछले फाइनेंशियल ईयर की, और ज्यादा कम जो भी था उसके हिसाब से उस क्रेडिट को एडजस्ट करना था। इसकी टाइम लिमिट इज स्टिल द रिटर्न फाइल इज स्टिल 20th October और ड्यू डेट ऑफ फर्निशिंग ऑफ एनुअल रिटर्न विच एवर इज अर्लियर। इसकी टाइम लिमिट इंक्रीज नहीं हुई है, काइंडली नोट दैट, क्योंकि बिकॉज सबकी टाइम लिमिट 30th नवंबर इंक्रीज हो गई है। एवरीवन थिंक्स कि जो फाइनल कैलकुलेशन होता था आईटीसी का उसकी भी टाइम लिमिट हम नवंबर करेंगे, ऐसा नहीं है। आपको रिवर्सल की टाइम लिमिट अभी भी पुरानी वाली ही है जो कि एप्लीकेबल है। नेक्स्ट देयर वाज दिस सर्कुलर, सो दिस इज लास्ट आई विल डिस्कस। आई नो
आयुष जी, एक क्वेश्चन बस छोटा सा पूछना था आपसे पीछे वाले में।
हाँ,
आपने जैसे 30th नवंबर बोला, जैसे हमारे पास क्वेरीज आती है काफी मेंबर्स की कि सामने पार्टी का आईटीसी जैसे रिफ्लेक्ट नहीं हो रहा, तो हम कोशिश तो यही करते हैं, कोशिश क्या, अब तो वो हो गया कि हम बिल्कुल लेते ही नहीं है जब तक उसका आईटीसी रिफ्लेक्ट ना हो। तो इन दैट केस मतलब ये प्रैक्टिकल क्या चैलेंजेस आ रहे हैं ऑन द लीगल साइड, ऑन द कंसल्टिंग साइड, की सामने वाले ने रिटर्न नहीं भरी, गलत बिल से भरी है, बहुत देयर आर सो मेनी न्यूमरस इश्यूज की आईटीसी मैं लेके भी नहीं ले सकता।
सर इसमें प्रैक्टिकल चैलेंजेस ना सारे यही आ रहे हैं कि मतलब आपको अपने सप्लायर के ही पीछे पड़ना पड़ेगा। बाद में इसका ऑप्शन आई हैव सीन कि 1 or 2 ऑफ द केसेस हम सीधे आर्बिट्रेशन के लिए गए हैं, बिकॉज जीएसटी लॉ में साफ मना कर दिया है आप क्रेडिट अगर लेना चाहें तो फिर भी लेके अवेल करके छोड़ दीजिए, बिकॉज दीज प्रोविजंस आई थिंक समवॉट विल बी चैलेंज्ड, और देखते हैं कि आगे क्या होगा। बट प्रैक्टिकली यू कैन नॉट टेक द आईटी सर, वो आपको कॉस्ट बनाना पड़ेगा, आप उसको अपने सप्लायर से ही रिकवर करें।
मतलब हमारे पास और कोई इसके अलावा कोई भी रास्ता नहीं है, क्योंकि आज भी अगर हम देखें कि बहुत लोगों ने रिटर्न नहीं भरी या बहुत लोगों ने कंप्लाइंट नहीं है, बहुत लोगों ने इनवॉइसेस डालना भूल गए, कोई क्रेडिट नोट डेबिट नोट्स की भी हमारी एक लास्ट डेट कोई है?
सर डेबिट नोट की नहीं है, क्रेडिट नोट की है।
क्रेडिट
नोट की लास्ट डेट वही 30th नवंबर इंक्रीज हो गई है। अब डेबिट नोट तो बिकॉज गवर्नमेंट को जब पैसा लेना है तो कोई टाइम लिमिट नहीं है। डेबिट नोट से आप अपनी आउटपुट लायबिलिटी इंक्रीज करते हैं, तो आप उसे 2 साल बाद दिखाएं, 3 साल बाद दिखाएं, आप इंटरेस्ट दीजिए और पे कर दीजिए। बट क्रेडिट नोट से आप अपनी आउटपुट लायबिलिटी कम करते हैं, तो उसकी टाइम लिमिट उन्होंने करके 30 नवंबर, और वो 30 नवंबर ड्यू डेट ऑफ फॉर्मेशन ऑफ एनुअल रिटर्न बेचेगा।
अच्छा, जो मेरा आईटीसी और रिवर्स चार्ज है उसका भी कोई टाइम लिमिट होती है?
सर ये थोड़ा सा डिबेटेबल क्वेश्चन है, क्योंकि हम अगर एग्जैक्टली 16 के वर्ड्स पढ़ेंगे और रिवर्स चार्ज के पढ़ेंगे, इन माय हम्बल ओपिनियन नो, रिवर्स चार्ज का कोई टाइम लिमिट नहीं है। आप पे कीजिए, आप पे करके लेना भी भूल गए हैं तो भी आप आगे जाके उसका आईटीसी बिल्कुल ले सकते हैं। दिस इज ओनली फॉर द इनवॉइसेस दैट आर बीइंग फर्निश्ड बाय माय सप्लायर। राइट,
ओके, ग्रेट, प्लीज आयुष।
this is just the last circular that I would like to discuss. This is recently came on 10th of November 2022, circular number 181 of 2022. Very simple circular. This was about regarding the refund of inverted duty structure, कि ये कैसे, इसमें कुछ 2-3 छोटे-छोटे दो चीजें स्पेसिफिकली क्लैरिफाई करी हैं कि चेंज किया था नेट आईटीसी ऑफ सर्विसेज को भी इंक्लूड किया था फॉर्मूला में, ताकि फॉर्मूला को थोड़ा सा पैरिटी दे दी जाए। पहले फॉर्मूला काफी ज्यादा डिपार्टमेंट को फेवर करता था, जहां पे आपका आईटीसी जब आप माइनस करते थे तब आप उसमें नेट आईटीसी टेकन फॉर सर्विसेज की बात नहीं होती थी। तो वो जो सर्कुलर्स जो नोटिफिकेशन से फॉर्मूला अमेंड किया था, वो नोटिफिकेशन आया था 5 जुलाई 2022 को, 5/7/2022। द क्वेश्चन वाज कि जो नया फॉर्मूला है वो रिफंड एप्लीकेशंस जो फाइल हुई हैं इस डेट से पहले हुई हैं उन पे भी एप्लीकेबल होगा, या फिर रिफंड एप्लीकेशन जो 5/7/2022 के बाद फाइल हुई हैं उन पे ही एप्लीकेबल होगा। इट इज सिंपल कि दिस इज अ प्रोस्पेक्टिव अमेंडमेंट। तो जो भी रिफंड एप्लीकेशंस आपने 5/7/2022 और उसके बाद फाइल करी हैं, नया फॉर्मूला केवल उन्हीं रिफंड एप्लीकेशंस पे फाइल एप्लीकेबल होगा। पुरानी रिफंड एप्लीकेशंस भले ही वो अभी एडजुडिकेशन के लिए पेंडिंग है डिपार्टमेंट के पास, बट उन पे पुराना ही फॉर्मूला अप्लाई होगा। The second is there were certain restrictions on some soybean oil and etc. that are covered under section chapter 15 and chapter 27 में certain goods थे जिनको restrict किया था कि इनका इन गुड्स के ऊपर आपको आईटीसी का इसका वो नहीं मिलेगा, इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट रिफंड नहीं मिलेगा इन्वर्टेड ड्यूटी स्ट्रक्चर का। अगेन restriction came on 18/7/2022। the question was कि इससे पहले के रिफंड एप्लीकेशंस पे लगेगा या उसके बाद के पे लगेगा या कब लगेगा। Simple कि this is a prospective amendment, so therefore refund applications filed on or after 18/7/2022 then only these restrictions will apply. Any refund application filed before that, so no such restriction will apply. So considering I have taken, I think, much time that was required, thank you so much everyone for
You are saying आयुष जी जो एप्लीकेशंस फाइल्ड है इसके बाद उनको नहीं मिलेगा, लेकिन जो इससे पहले एप्लीकेशन फाइल्ड है उनको मिल जाएगा?
नहीं सर, जो एप्लीकेशन फाइल होंगी 18/7/22 के बाद या 18/7/2022 को, या फिर नए फॉर्मूले के हिसाब से 5/7/2022 को, उसको नए फॉर्मूले का बेनिफिट मिलेगा। जो पुरानी इससे पहले ऑलरेडी फाइल्ड है बट अभी भी डिपार्टमेंट के पास एडजुडिकेशन के लिए पेंडिंग है, उसको उन रिफंड एप्लीकेशंस को इस नए फॉर्मूले का बेनिफिट नहीं मिलेगा।
ओके, हमारा पास हम ये क्वेश्चन नहीं कर रहे हैं कि कौन से पीरियड का रिफंड था या कौन से पीरियड से इन्वर्टेड ड्यूटी स्ट्रक्चर था।
नहीं
है, इट्स डेट ऑफ फाइलिंग।
करेक्ट।
आयुष, इसमें स्पेसिफिकली ना आई वुड जस्ट ऐड, यहाँ पे जो मेजरली जो गुड्स रिस्ट्रिक्ट किए गए ना अंडर इन्वर्टेड ड्यूटी स्ट्रक्चर, वो गुड्स थे जो कि प्रायर टू दिस डेट नॉन टैक्सेबल हुआ करते थे। एंड like jaggery, which was not taxable, but with effect from 18 July 2022 it has been taxed at 5%। तो पहले नॉन टैक्सेबल थे तो वैसे भी कोई रिफंड नहीं बनता था, बारिंग 1 or 2 प्रोडक्ट जहां पे ऑर्थोपेडिक्स रिलेटेड मेडिकल इक्विपमेंट्स थे, उसके अलावा मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द गुड्स में वैसे भी पहले रिफंड नहीं मिलता था बिकॉज दे वर नॉट लायबल टू टैक्स। अब उन्होंने उसका रेट एक कंसेशनल रेट कर दिया सो दैट आईटीसी का बेनिफिट मिले, बट उन्होंने इन्वर्टेड ड्यूटी स्ट्रक्चर के रिफंड को डिनाई कर दिया वहां पे।
Thank you, Siddhant, for adding this. Thanks. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being a patient listener. If you have any queries, you can ask. Otherwise, I'll hand over it to Siddhant ji.
What we can,
if you have any queries, feel free to ask because Siddhant ji is speaking after Ayush ji. Yeah, please, Siddhant ji, carry.
What we can do is, if there are any queries, we can discuss it at the end of the session if Ayush is available.
Sure. I am available.
Okay. So at the outset, I would like to thank East Delhi Study Circle, Shashank ji, for giving me this opportunity. to discuss with you the judgments that have come under GST till date. In the beginning, as we all discussed, that GST is unsettled. And yes, it will take a certain period of time to get settled. There are many clarifications that have come from the government itself. And then we always have constitutional courts at our rescue. There are more than 1,000 judgments which have been pronounced by the high courts, if I consider it pan-India. And we have seen 4 or 5 judgments coming from the Supreme Court as well, specifically to GST. So judgments are many, and it was difficult to shortlist a few of them. Still, I have tried my level best, and I will be discussing with you few prominent judgments which will help us in our professional endeavors. Prior to starting, certainly I would say that these judgments or getting benefit of these judgments takes certain effort, and it requires litigation, and in all cases we cannot do litigation in. हम सारे cases में अपने सारे clients के issues को लेकर के शशांक जी ने discuss किया कि जहाँ पे ITC auto populate नहीं हो रहा है 2A में, तो मैं क्या करूँ? मैं बोनाफाइड बायर हूँ, मैंने genuinely सप्लाई प्रोक्योर की है, अपने सप्लायर को टैक्स पे किया है, बट सप्लायर either has made the payment of tax, but due to certain error committed in GSTR 1, the credit is not auto populating in 2A, or if he has not even paid the tax, तो ऐसे cases में क्या किया जाए? I understand जहाँ पे amounts are not big, or the assessee is not willing to litigate it because litigation comes with a cost. In those cases, they concede the liability, but where we litigate, then constitutional courts will be certainly at rescue so far as a bona fide buyer is concerned. With this, I would first present, basically I have not prepared a PPT. I have rather prepared a synopsis of few cases. And I hope the screen is visible.
Yes, Siddhant, please.
So this first judgment is related to what we are discussing, Mahalakshmi Infra Contract Limited. What happened is Mahalakshmi Infra Contract Limited entered into a contract with Eastern Coalfields Limited. The basically the decision has been given by the Jharkhand High Court. So mining related contract था जो कि Eastern Coalfields Limited ने Mahalakshmi Infra Contract Limited को दिया. And during the course of supply कई सारे running bills raise होते थे, GSTR 1 properly file होती थी, GSTR 3B में tax pay किया जाता था, and Eastern Coalfields Limited अपना credit claim करती थी, payment करती थी supplier को, सारी चीजें सही चल रही थी. January 2019 की एक रिटर्न में महालक्ष्मी इंफ्रा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट से GSTIN गलत इंटिमेट हुआ, एंड ऑल्दो इनवॉइस की डिटेल सारी सही गई, बट GSTIN एक अनइंटेंडेड रेसिपिएंट का मेंशन हुआ ईस्टर्न कोलफील्ड्स के बजाय, एंड रिटर्न वाज फाइल्ड, 3B में टैक्स पे हो गया. किसी को कोई अभी तक अवेयरनेस भी नहीं है कि कोई गलती हुई है. दिस इज जनवरी 2019. हम जानते हैं 2018-19 की जो टाइम लिमिट्स थी करेक्शंस की, ओमिशंस की, इस तरीके की जो GSTR 1 में हमें अलाउड है अंडर सेक्शन 37, वो बाय 10th of September की जो ड्यू डेट थी GSTR 1 की, वहां तक मुझे ठीक करनी थी, बट महालक्ष्मी इंफ्रा हैड नो नॉलेज अबाउट इट. इट वाज नॉट इवन कम्युनिकेटेड बाय द ईस्टर्न कोलफील्ड्स, उनको भी नहीं पता था. बट अल्टीमेटली जब 2021 में कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, क्योंकि दिस कॉन्ट्रैक्ट वाज रनिंग इनटू ह्यूज अमाउंट्स, तो यहाँ पे जब फाइनली सेटलमेंट हुई तो महालक्ष्मी इंफ्रा को a certain amount of 2 crore odd figure was not paid by the Eastern Coalfields. When the contractor approached the contractee says there is one invoice which was not auto populating in our GSTR 2A, and therefore we have not made the payment to you of the entire invoice, including the GST. Now Mahalakshmi approached the jurisdictional authorities कि हमें अलाउ किया जाए हमारी GSTR 1 को अमेंड करने के लिए, बिकॉज एक मिस्टेक है, एक इनएडवर्टेंट एरर है, क्लरिकल अपेरेंट मिस्टेक है, बट एज वी ऑल नो administrative authorities were not of any help. Now this contractor approached the Honorable High Court pleading that there is only a mistake which has been committed, there is no loss of revenue to the government. और एक मिस्टेक की वजह से मेरे रेसिपिएंट को क्रेडिट नहीं मिल रहा है एंड कॉन्सिक्वेंटली वो मुझे पेमेंट नहीं कर रहे हैं. The Eastern Coalfields, which was the contractee actual recipient, was also made party of the writ petition. GSTN network was made party of the writ petition. GST Council was made party to the writ petition, and the concerned jurisdictional authorities as well were made the respondents. Eastern Coalfields जो contractee है, एक उन्होंने एफिडेविट फाइल करी कि we have not claimed the credit. जो अनइंटेंडेड रेसिपिएंट था उसको भी पार्टी बनाया गया, बिकॉज दे वर एबल टू कैच होल्ड. उनको पता था कि हमने किसका जीएसटीएन मेंशन किया है एंड दे वर आल्सो मेड दी पार्टी. उन्होंने भी एफिडेविट फाइल करी कि हमने भी इस क्रेडिट का कोई क्लेम नहीं लिया है बिकॉज वी आर नॉट द एक्चुअल रेसिपिएंट, हमने ये सप्लाई रिसीव ही नहीं की है. हाई कोर्ट इससे पहले जो रेस्पोंडेंट की तरफ से प्लीडिंग आई वो ये आई कि भारतीय एयरटेल के केस में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जीएसटीआर 1 को और जीएसटीआर 3B की रेक्टिफिकेशन को डिसअलाउ किया है आफ्टर द स्टिपुलेटेड टाइम पीरियड. वहां पे फैक्ट्स कुछ और थे, इशू कुछ और था. झारखंड हाईकोर्ट ने दो एस्पेक्ट्स को अप्रिशिएट किया. फर्स्ट, सप्लायर ने गवर्नमेंट को टैक्स पे किया है, देयर इज नो loss of tax to the government due to this mistake. Secondly, कोई एडिशनल टैक्स इंप्लीकेशन नहीं आएगी या कोई एब्सर्ड रिजल्ट नहीं क्रिएट होगा अगर सप्लायर को ये रेक्टिफिकेशन अलाउ कर दी जाए. Secondly, High Court emphasized that Secondly, the High Court emphasized कि जब जीएसटी लॉ इंप्लीमेंट किया गया था तो एक मैकेनिज्म था जीएसटीआर 1, जीएसटीआर 2 एंड जीएसटीआर 3 का, जिसको फाइनेंस एक्ट 2022 ने तो खत्म कर दिया, बट एट दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम दिस वाज प्रिविलेंट. बट उसको कभी भी इंप्लीमेंट नहीं कर पाया जीएसटीएन नेटवर्क. अगर वो इंप्लीमेंट होता तो ईस्टर्न कोलफील्ड्स कम्युनिकेट कर पाती, अनइंटेंडेड रेसिपिएंट ऑफ सप्लाई जो था वो कम्युनिकेट कर पाता महालक्ष्मी को कि हमने ये सप्लाई नहीं ली है, और ये रेक्टिफिकेशन टाइमली हो सकती थी, बट उस वजह से ये नहीं हो पाई. सो झारखंड हाई कोर्ट इन दिस केस हैज डायरेक्टेड द डिपार्टमेंट बाय अलाउइंग द पिटिशन ऑफ महालक्ष्मी कि आप इनकी जीएसटीआर 1 को अमेंड करने की फैसिलिटी ऑनलाइन दें. अगर ऑनलाइन पॉसिबल नहीं है तो इनको मैनुअली अलाउ करें और ये जीएसटीआईएन अमेंड करें सो दैट द इंटेंडेड रेसिपिएंट ऑफ सप्लाई इज एबल टू टेक द क्रेडिट. सो इन केसेस जहां पे ये इनएडवर्टेंट मिस्टेक्स हो जाती हैं एंड द फाइनेंशियल इंप्लीकेशन इज ह्यूज, वी कैन ऑलवेज अप्रोच द जुरिस्डिक्शनल हाई कोर्ट्स टू seek the relief. Although there is a controversy, the department might file an appeal before the Supreme Court in this case also, but I feel Supreme Court will give the decision in the favor of the assessee only, considering it was merely a clerical mistake. Next judgment is Vadivil Pyrotech Private Limited. In this case, what happened is, हम सभी को ASMT 10 नोटिस रिसीव होता है. प्रॉपर ऑफिसर के पास पावर है कि जो हमने रिटर्न्स फाइल की हैं उसको वो स्क्रूटनाइज करेगा और हमें इंटीमेट करेगा क्या डिस्क्रिपेंसीज हैं. 1 versus 3B, 2A versus 3B. I will be dealing this in detail tomorrow when I will be deliberating upon how to handle scrutiny notices. तो मैं अभी यहाँ पे डील नहीं करूंगा. तो इनको भी एक नोटिस आया ASMT 10 में जहाँ पे दो डिस्क्रिपेंसीज कम्युनिकेटेड थी. एक 1 versus 3B आउटपुट टैक्स लायबिलिटी में डिफरेंस था एंड अनदर वाज 2A versus 3B इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट ज्यादा लिया था 2A से. असेसी ने ड्यूली within time ASMT 10 का reply submit किया, and then everything became silent. After 6 months, assessee gets a call from the department and is informed that an amount is due from them in pursuant to an order passed by the jurisdictional authority. When the assessee said that we have not been communicated any such order, the department asked them to check the portal. And when the assessee checked the portal, there was a show cause notice, and after and within a gap of few days, there was an order as well passed. So, show cause notice में mention था कि in pursuance of scrutiny of returns under section 61, जो कि पहले की गई थी, जिसका assessee ने reply किया था, we have listed down the discrepancies and you are required to show cause why this amount is not payable. And the order was also in the similar fashion in pursuance of the discrepancies intimated under section 61, basis the scrutiny of returns. The following demand is confirmed. Now, what interestingly happened is the discrepancies that were mentioned in the show cause notice and the order were totally different from the discrepancies that were mentioned in the ASMT 10 given earlier. The discrepancies were with regards to difference between 3B and 9C, few demands payable under reverse charge, taxable under reverse charge. The department had come to know about it based on the basis of service accounting code or something like that. Then there was another demand with regards to availment of ITC on the invoices issued by the sister concerns of this assessee without any e-way bill. तो डिपार्टमेंट ने कुछ अलग ही डिस्क्रिपेंसी पे शो कॉज नोटिस और ऑर्डर को पास कर दिया बाय वाइल मेंशनिंग कि जो हमने आपकी स्क्रूटनी ऑफ रिटर्न्स की थी और आपको ASMT 10 इशू किया था. So this assessee directly approached the High Court, and the High Court has given the relief, has set aside the show cause notice and order, stating that when you have issued the show cause notice and the order basis the scrutiny of returns, which require issuance of a ASMT prior to the SCN and the order, then in that case, you cannot issue a show cause notice and order in respect of discrepancies which were never communicated in the ASMT 10. So these two documents were set aside, but a liberty was given to the department that they can now serve the ASMT 10 and then follow the due course of action. तो इस तरीके से जहां पे भी प्रिंसिपल ऑफ नेचुरल जस्टिस फॉलो नहीं होता है, असेसी अग्रीड फील करता है, वहां पे हाई कोर्ट को अप्रोच किया जाता है and then they are at rescue. Another important decision, LGW Industries. मैं citation read नहीं कर रहा हूं, they are in front of you. I will even pass it to you after this deliberation. LGW Industries, Calcutta High Court. Very important ratio that they have laid down. Although the proceedings are not yet finalized because they have remanded them back to the डिपार्टमेंटल अथॉरिटी. डिपार्टमेंट ने LGW इंडस्ट्रीज के कुछ सप्लाईज जो इनवर्ड सप्लाईज थी उनके क्रेडिट को डिनाई किया ऑन द प्रीमाइस दैट द सप्लायर्स व्हिच हैव सप्लाइड दीज गुड्स और सर्विसेज, देयर रजिस्ट्रेशन हैज बीन retrospectively cancelled by the department. Now this assessee again directly filed a writ challenging the demand of those credits. And the High Court says that if prior to that, I would state that the petitioner stated that when we procured the supplies, when we entered into the transaction with the supplier, the registration was active. When we saw their credentials on the GST portal, they were very well active. They were registered as under GST. And barring that, besides that, we do not have any facility to check their genuineness. We have procured the supplies from them. We have made the payment of tax invoice along with tax to them through proper banking channels. And we do not have any mechanism to check if the party is actual or not, besides the GSTN portal, where we saw and we verified that this party is actively registered at that point of time when the supplies were availed. So the Calcutta High Court has accepted this plea and asked the department, revenue authorities, to verify if the claim of the petitioner is genuine, if the supplies were actually undertaken, if they have actually made the payment to the suppliers, if they verified that the supplier is actually registered, they have proper verification of KYC, then on that basis, they must be allowed the credit, and they cannot be denied the credit merely because afterwards the department has retrospectively cancelled the registration. इस तरीके के issues बहुत आ रहे हैं, दिल्ली में भी आ रहे हैं, जहां पे कि डिपार्टमेंट क्रेडिट डायरेक्टली असेसी का डिनाई कर रहा है on the premise that supplier's registration has been retrospectively cancelled. तो यहाँ पे इस तरीके का केस लॉ would be beneficial to us. Now, next very important judgment, हम में से ज्यादातर लोगों ने इसके बारे में सुना है, पढ़ा है इस जजमेंट को. Currently, it is sub judice before the Honorable Supreme Court, and hearing is scheduled for 23rd of November for arguments. Safari Retreats Private Limited, Odisha High Court judgment. Remarkable judgment. Section 17, subsection 5, clause C and D restrict the input tax credit of construction of immovable property constructed on own account, even if that immovable property is used in the course or furtherance of my business, unless and until I am into the same line of business. To cut short, I am a chartered accountant. My firm is registered under GST. अगर मैं अपना ऑफिस कंस्ट्रक्ट कराता हूं तो मुझे इसका क्रेडिट नहीं एडमिसिबल, चाहे मैं गुड्स और सर्विसेज को सेपरेटली प्रोक्योर करके लाऊं तो वो डिनाइड है 17(5)D में, या मैं टर्न की कॉन्ट्रैक्ट अपने कॉन्ट्रैक्टर को दूं तो वो कवर्ड है 17(5)C में और मेरे को क्रेडिट नहीं मिलता है. दिस इज द लॉ. अब सफारी रिट्रीट्स में this entity constructed a mall for the purpose of letting out units therein to various tenants. They claimed the credit of the construction and started utilizing it against the GST liability on the rental amount. But the department denied this credit, demanded the reversal of this credit. They approached the Honorable High Court, Jurisdictional High Court of Odisha. The three primary arguments which were made in their petition were: the mall which has been constructed is not on own account, rather it is intended for letting out to others. 17(5)C और D में क्या कवर्ड है? जहां पे प्रॉपर्टी मैं खुद के लिए बना रहा हूं. तो इन्होंने अपने केस को डिस्टिंग्विश किया कि हमने अपने खुद के लिए नहीं, रादर देन फॉर लेटिंग आउट टू अदर्स हमने एक प्रॉपर्टी कंस्ट्रक्ट की है. सेकेंड आर्ग्यूमेंट वाज a huge quantum of GST incidence has been borne on the goods and services which have been procured for construction of immovable property. Cement, steel, prefabricated structures, whatnot. Then services में architect, professional services. इस तरीके की कई सारी goods और services running into crores of rupees have been availed और उस पे GST incidence bear किया गया है. This construction is directly linked to the renting out of the property. And the GST incidence borne on the inputs and input services is directly linked to the output GST paid on the rental income. If in this case, where there is no break in the tax chain, if the credit is disallowed to us, then it would frustrate the very objective of bringing the GST at the first place, wherein the statement of objects and reasons of 101st Constitution Amendment Act says that GST is to be implemented for eliminating cascading effect of taxes to allow smooth flow of credit across the supply chain. तो आपने इस पूरे पर्पस को ही डिफीट कर दिया अगर आप हमें इस क्रेडिट को डिसअलाउ करेंगे. Doctrine of contemporanea expositio, which means that you have to give due importance to the object of implementing the law while interpreting the provisions of that law. Third argument was डिपार्टमेंट बिल्डर को क्रेडिट अलाउ करता है बिकॉज वो कंस्ट्रक्ट करके अंडर कंस्ट्रक्शन सेल करता है, जीएसटी पे करता है, तो उसे कंस्ट्रक्शन का क्रेडिट अलाउड है. Why an assessee who is constructing the property for the purpose of leasing, he is being discriminated, and if that being so, it would be violation of Article 14 of the Constitution of India. तो एक arbitrariness आप क्रिएट कर रहे हो, आप एक inequality क्रिएट कर रहे हो between two people. So in तीन arguments, in primarily in तीन arguments को, इसमें काफी सारे और भी arguments थे उनके काउंसिल की तरफ से, and इन तीन arguments को मद्देनजर रखते हुए उड़ीसा हाई कोर्ट said that credit is a vested right, and when the purpose of bringing GST was to allow smooth flow of input tax credit across the supply chain, and in this very case where there is no break in the tax chain, then credit has to be allowed. There cannot be demand of the credit. Now department has filed SLP before the Honorable Supreme Court. The matter is pending to be heard. Various other applications have been tagged along with this matter, wherein various lease companies have come forward that they are constructing the properties for letting out on lease basis. So we should also be allowed the credit. Whatever the decision will be there, we will be bound by it. In case of hotel establishments as well, the same proposition will prevail, because all these type of establishments are being constructed for giving to others and not on own account. So this was the decision in Safari.
Manji, sorry to interrupt. What is your interpretation on this same ruling? Can you share your understanding on?
My view is that it should be available to these type of entities. Although I feel that Supreme Court might give it in favor of assessees, but then department would certainly, government would certainly, parliament would certainly think of bringing in the amendment, or they can even explore retrospective amendment in the law, because I don't feel they intend to give such type of credit, but it should be allowed. It should be allowed. When we are seeing these days, the collection is crossing more than 1.5 lakh crores. So such benefit should be given to such type of entities, wherein the property itself is the medium of generating the revenue and the GST thereon. मेरे केस में जहां मैं अपना एक ऑफिस बना रहा हूँ, या एक मैन्युफैक्चरर के केस में जहां पे वो फैक्ट्री बना रहा है, ठीक है, आप उसे डिनाई कर दो, वहां पे इनडायरेक्ट है, ऑल्दो इट इज एसेंशियल, इट इज इंटेग्रल पार्ट, बट स्टिल these cases wherein the connection is very much direct, the credit should be allowed. My view is this. आप इसमें कुछ अगर अपना लाइट थ्रो करना
it's very subjective. If I talk about law, so it has to be uniform, and if we talk about uniformity, like it's very subjective then, because
right.
I have 4 houses, so like as per the income tax law, the 3 is for the let out purpose only. So if I mix both the laws now, so there is a very like on every property we are getting the input in one or other way.
Right.
Let's see. Very nice,
yes.
Very nice case, but
yes. Okay. So next is Balaji Enterprise versus Principal Additional Director General. Now what happened in this case is physical verification every other day we are seeing the GST officers come to the premises, they do the physical verification. If the person is there, it is okay and the report is fine. But if the person, for any XYZ genuine reason, if the person or the premises is not open, or in fact this GSTN board is not displayed, they give a negative report, and the very next moment we are served with a show cause notice for cancellation of registration, and suspension is automatic from that time. Now, in one such case, what happened is, in this case, DGGI Chennai was inquiring this petitioner, Balaji Enterprises, for issuance of some bogus invoices. Now that inquiry is pending. They are doing this inquiry. Yes, as a matter of procedure, DGGI Chennai intimated this fact to the jurisdictional office, Delhi office of the petitioner. Within a short period of time, the petitioner got an intimation that their registration has been suspended, and show cause notice was issued why their registration should not be cancelled. And the reason cited therein was the show cause notices which we are receiving these days, especially in relation to registration or mismatches, they are actually very funny. Now, the reason cited in this show cause notice was, if the registration has been obtained by fraudulent means, then why it should not be cancelled. Now, the department is already shifting the onus on the assessee to prove that the registration has not been obtained by way of fraudulent means. Whereas when the department is doing an action, the onus is on the department to allege something. But the show cause reads in 2 lines: if the registration has been obtained by fraudulent means, then why the registration, or willful suppression or willful misstatement or suppression of facts, then why it should not be cancelled. Now, this petitioner duly replied to this notice stating that I am duly the owner of this premises. This premises is an administrative office of our entire business. We are filing the returns, we are duly paying the GST, whatever is there. So our registration should not be cancelled. The inquiry being conducted by DGGI Chennai is independent. Now, subsequent to that, an order for cancellation, as we all can expect, is passed, ignoring the reply of the, while filing the reply, the assessee also submitted that you please undertake a physical verification of the premises to verify my contention that it is actually being used for the business purpose and I own it and this and that. Now, the order is passed stating a new proposition that this suo motu cancellation has been initiated on account of a letter received from DGGI Chennai, whereas this fact was not disclosed at the stage of SCL. Although assessee knows that a separate inquiry is being conducted. Now, in the order, they state that this order is being passed on account of a letter received from DGGI Chennai regarding bogus invoicing, and we have considered the reply of the show cause notice, and as asked by the assessee, we did the physical verification, but at the time of physical verification, the premises were closed. And therefore, we are cancelling the registration. Now, this person, as a matter of procedure, filed a revocation of cancellation. When the revocation of cancellation application was filed, they stated the reason, justifiable reason why the premises was closed on that day, and the same can be redone. But the department did not accept the application for revocation of cancellation. The assessee approached the High Court, and the High Court on two aspects. Primarily on the aspect that when the physical verification was done, supposedly if it was done at all, then the assessee must have been pre-intimated about that date. Because Rule 25 says that physical verification is to be done in the presence of the taxpayer, of the registered person. So you have to pre-intimate before. So this ratio is very important. Whenever a PV is done, it is not a search that you go without intimating the assessee. It is a physical verification. You have to pre-intimate that I am coming and please be available. So this process was not followed. And then the physical verification report itself was never uploaded on the GSTN portal, which is a due course to be undertaken by the department after doing the PV. So on this very aspect, and on the secondly, on the premise that the order passed was beyond the frame, was beyond the I would say was beyond the situation that was communicated in the show cause notice. Therefore, such order cannot sustain and registration has to be granted to the assessee. So this was the decision of Delhi High Court. This is a Delhi High Court judgment. So in any case, if you feel that physical verification on account of physical verification or registration has been cancelled, then please mention that you kindly conduct the physical verification and the department does not pre-intimate you, then you have all the rights to litigate that, and you must ask the proper officer to pre-intimate and then come and issue the PV report on the portal. Only then the physical verification is deemed as proper and complete. Then another decision is RP BuildCon. This is also an important judgment. In this case, the RP BuildCon, the assessee was, an audit was initiated under section 65, that is GST departmental audit was initiated of this assessee for the financial year 2017-18, 18-19 and 19-20. ADT 1 was served. Regularly we are seeing these type of notices and we are giving the documents to the department. ADT, so whatever information was asked, the assessee submitted the same. 4 discrepancies were intimated during the audit, and 2 discrepancies, 2 observations were accepted by the auditee. Tax along with interest was paid, and 2 observations, they submitted their explanation that this is not acceptable to us. Before the audit could reach its logical end, if the department accepts the satisfied with the explanation, then they can serve the final audit memo and get done. Or if they are not satisfied, then they have to serve a show cause notice ultimately. So even prior to having reached this conclusion, the audit having reached this conclusion, they get another notice from anti-evasion department. So central department was doing the audit, then another authority of central department, that is anti-evasion, gave them the notice that we require your records for the purpose of inquiry. And then another notice from the range officer asking them to submit the documents for the same period, that is 17-18, 18-19, 19-20. So for these same 3 financial years, 3 authorities asked for the documents without intimating any special type of information they have got or not, but just generally asking for the documents. Now this assessee approached the High Court. High Court, while making a mockery of the subsequent 2 authorities, making a statement that in this digital era where electronic communication is the order of the day, when these 3 authorities of the same central, these 3 departments of the central authority are not in line with each other, then the assessees would have to face the undue harassment. So they have directed the audit wing to conclude the audit, and they have restrained the anti-evasion department and the range jurisdictional officer to do any inquiry with regards to the 3 financial years 17-18 and 18-19, 19-20. They have also categorically stated that apart from these 3 years, the other 2 authorities are at liberty to ask for the documents. So in such cases, the constitutional courts are always at rescue. Now, another very good judgment, good clarification, I would say, when this last GST Council meeting had held, I remember many issues were created, one of which was renting of residential dwelling. So renting of residential dwelling for use as residence is an absolute exempted supply under GST. But with effect from July 2022, a part of it has been excluded. The exclusion is renting of residential dwelling to a registered person. As a result of which, the questions that were raised were, if let us suppose I'm running a proprietorship firm engaged into any supply of goods or services, or you can even say CA service, chartered accountancy services. If I, for my personal use, take a house on rent for my residence, then would I be liable to pay GST? Because this exclusion has been taxed under reverse charge. This exclusion from the exemption has been taxed under reverse charge. Then I, as a registered person, am I liable to GST? So at that time also, we were of the considerate opinion that in these type of cases where the property is not being used in the course or furtherance of business of the proprietorship firm, but of the proprietor's personal use only, in that case, no reverse charge liability would arise. And this is the judgment in front of you, Seema Gupta versus Union of India, Delhi High Court judgment binding on the Delhi authorities, that no GST on renting of residential dwelling by proprietor of registered proprietorship firm for personal use, and not for use in the course or furtherance of business of her proprietorship firm. So this is the case. Then the next judgment is SVR Distilleries Private Limited. Shashankji, I hope I have certain amount of time, right?
Sir, time is already over. So.
Understand.
Yeah.
So let me discuss some important ones then, prior ones.
Sure.
We are having participants right now.
Yes. Participants will definitely be here.
Because
everybody is listening
already
you
16. Right. So I can go ahead. This gives me confidence that I can continue.
Please.
So then the next case I would like to discuss with you, there are more than one High Court rulings in this case, and this is against the SSE, I would say. India Yamaha Motors Private Limited. अगर आपके कैश लेजर में सफिशिएंट बैलेंस है, बट आप रिटर्न लेट फाइल कर रहे हैं, उस टैक्स को कैश लेजर से डेबिट लेट कर रहे हैं, then 2 high courts are against you. Both of them say that unless the amount gets debited from the electronic cash ledger, the government is not able to use that amount. It lies at the credit of the registered person and not to the credit of the exchequer. So amount lying in your electronic cash ledger, unless it gets debited either by way of GSTR 3B or through DRC 03, it cannot be considered as payment and it would not insulate you from interest liability. तो ये बहुत ध्यान रखने वाली बात है. शुरू के पीरियड्स में इंडिया यामाहा मोटर्स के केस में भी जुलाई 2017 में इनसे एक गलती हुई. इनके पास 2 प्लांट्स थे, फरीदाबाद में और एक चेन्नई में. इन्होंने ड्यू टैक्स अपने दोनों GST में कैश लेजर में तो जमा करा दिया, बट एट द टाइम ऑफ फाइलिंग 3B दे स्वैप्ड द डेटा, एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ विच चेन्नई में जो टैक्स पे होना था वो शॉर्ट डिक्लेयर हुआ और शॉर्ट एडजस्ट हुआ, कैश लेजर में पैसा पड़ा रह गया. They immediately got to know about this mistake. They approached the departmental authorities to allow them to rectify the return. It was a nascent stage, very first month, but no authority was able to help them. As a result of which, subsequent few months returns also got delayed, though we were timely depositing the payment in the cash ledger. And the July difference, wherein the data got swept, as a result of which a huge amount of interest liability was confirmed upon them by the department, amounting to 5 crores. जुलाई 2017 का जो 3B में शॉर्ट अमाउंट रिफ्लेक्ट हुआ, उसका डिफरेंस इतना ह्यूज था कि जब तक वो असेसी अप्रोप्रिएट कर पाया थ्रू DRC 03 और सब्सिक्वेंट रिटर्न्स, ऑल्दो उन्हें अगस्त के रिटर्न में उसे अप्रोप्रिएट कर देना चाहिए था, बट दे डिड नॉट डू. बहुत इनिशियल स्टेज थी, नहीं पता था कि अगले महीने के रिटर्न में ये चीज ठीक कर सकते हैं या नहीं, ऑल्दो लॉ वाज देयर इन प्लेस. तो इस गलती की वजह से द इंटरेस्ट लायबिलिटी अमाउंटेड टू 5 crore rupees. The SSC approached the Honorable High Court, Madras High Court, and Madras High Court says, considering the structure, the framework of the GST and portal, the provisions and all, section 49, then rules, आपका अमाउंट तब तक पेड नहीं माना जाता जब तक कैश लेजर से अमाउंट डेबिट नहीं हो जाता. गवर्नमेंट इज नॉट एबल टू यूज दैट अमाउंट, and unless the government is able to use that amount, you are using the money of the government, and that is why interest is imposable. मद्रास हाई कोर्ट, रिसेंटली अभी झारखंड हाई कोर्ट भी आया है इस इशू पे, वो भी अगेंस्ट है. तो इस तरीके के केसेस में अब सर्टेनली दिस एसएससी विल, आई फील दैट इट विल गो बिफोर द ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट. व्हाट आई वुड लाइक टू मेंशन हियर इज, इनमें से किसी भी जजमेंट में एक प्रोविजन को डिस्कस नहीं किया गया, ऑल्दो आई डू नॉट नो व्हाट द सुप्रीम कोर्ट विल फाइनली हेल्ड. हो सकता है कि बिकॉज द गवर्नमेंट इज नॉट एबल टू यूज द मनी विच आई हैव डिपॉजिटेड इन कैश लेजर, as a result of that, interest would finally be confirmed. But my point is, none of these judgments or in none of those arguments, they have discussed an explanation appended to section 49 at last, which says that when the amount is deposited in the amount is deemed to be credited to the authorized bank of the government when it is deposited in the cash ledger. This explanation must have been put forth before the honorable judges, and I feel that it must have been discussed, because it simply means that कि गवर्नमेंट के अकाउंट में पैसा क्रेडिटेड माना जाएगा जब मैं कैश लेजर में अमाउंट डिपॉजिट कर दूंगा. देखिए, किसी के अकाउंट से पैसा डेबिट हुआ है तो किसी के अकाउंट में तो क्रेडिट हुआ है. It might be usable, it might not be usable. But इस argument को नहीं डिस्कस किया गया, which certainly I feel when the matter would reach the Supreme Court, it would be. तो इस तरीके से as on date judgments against हैं, interest liability is confirmed. But अगर आपके किसी ऐसा केस में आप stuck हो गए हैं तो मैटर को लाइव रखिए. We feel that since GST Appellate Tribunal is not yet constituted, in the years to come, government would should bring an amnesty scheme, and we are already seeing in the news that certain proposals are already in place, and if they bring the amnesty scheme, if the interest gets waived, then nothing like it, and huge demands like this would get waived. तो आप अपने मैटर को लाइव रखिए, क्योंकि इंटरेस्ट पे इंटरेस्ट नहीं है जीएसटी में, ये अमाउंट बढ़ नहीं जाएगा. अब जो आपका क्रिस्टलाइज आपके केस में अगर डिपार्टमेंट ने किया है तो उसी पे आप डिपार्टमेंट से कहिए कि शो कॉज नोटिस सर्व करे और इसे लिटिगेट करिए. लेट अस सी. वी हैव टू रैप अप, लेट्स क्लोज इन. अच्छा, तो लेट मी जस्ट गिव मी 5 minutes, एक दो मैं इंपॉर्टेंट और डिस्कस कर लेता हूँ. राइट?
श्योर सिद्धांत जी.
अच्छा, एक जैसे ये दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट का जजमेंट है, मैं दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट का ही डिस्कस कर लेता हूँ. एक केस में क्या हुआ कि ऑथराइजेशन इशू इनिशिएट हुआ बाय द जॉइंट कमिश्नर टू कंडक्ट अ सर्च अपॉन एन एसएससी. जब सर्च हुई तो एसएससी से बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट मांगे गए. एसएससी ने टाइम मांगा कि मुझे 24 घंटे दिए जाए, मैं बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट प्रोड्यूस करूंगा. देयर प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेस इज रिपोर्टेड इन द जजमेंट, इट इज नरेला एंड सम अदर प्लेस एज वेल. तो वहां पे जब असेसी ने टाइम मांगा तो उनकी प्रीमाइसिस को, पूरी प्रीमाइसिस को टेम्पररी सील कर दिया गया, डिपार्टमेंट ने टेम्पररी सील कर दिया। एंड वेरी नेक्स्ट डे उसको परमानेंटली सील कर दिया और 1 महीने से पूरी प्रॉपर्टी ही सील्ड है। Now there is no power under the law to seal the entire premises. Even if you do search, you can only search and seize my documents, my goods, and other things belonging to me, my books of account. You cannot seal my entire premises. So that has been held by the Delhi High Court, that sealing of premises under the authorization of search under GST law is per se illegal. So this was the judgment. Then I would discuss this on-quest merchandising and Arise India tomorrow when we will discuss about the notice on assessment. कि वहाँ पे भी आएगा 2A versus 3B में, तो वहाँ पे cover हो जाएगा कुछ चीजें. With this, I think Shashank ji, we can conclude considering the paucity of time. Though I have many things to discuss.
That's true, and I was also getting excited about what the content you have right now, and I was really enjoying, frankly speaking.
Great.
Hello Ayush.
Hello Shashank ji.
आयुष जी, आपकी बातें जो रिसेंट अपडेट्स थे ना, वो एक्चुअली इस तरीके से चले कि मतलब लिटरली स्पीकिंग मेरे को नहीं लगता लाइक वी एज द प्रोफेशनल्स हैव पाइल अप ऑल दोस इंफॉर्मेशन इन अ वन सिंगल नोट, बट आपने उसे इतने तरीके से रखा हुआ है कि वो आप जरूर शेयर करिएगा मेंबर्स के बीच में। मेरे को लगता है वो इट इज वेरी बेनिफिशियल, बिकॉज जिस तेजी से वो अमेंडमेंट्स आई है ना, नोबडी इज एबल टू ट्रैक अपॉन द आईटीसी, एंड स्पेशली जब आपने बोला वो 30 नवंबर लास्ट डेट हर चीज की नहीं है, मतलब कहते हैं ना हमें तो वन लाइनर अपडेट्स के थ्रू ही पता चलती हैं वो बातें, अदरवाइज so you have discussed everything, and Siddhant ji is a wonderful speaker today, like slowly and with a complete temper he has like he is a good orator, I can say. Very nice, and let's close it today, and thank you so much members, and I hope we will connect again tomorrow at same time 4 o'clock, and let's learn more tomorrow, and thank you so much Ayush ji and Siddhant ji. Let's connect tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you Shashank.
Thank you. Vineet ji, please close the session. Thank you everyone. Thank you so much.